We live in a strange universe. Hive and Vex, Taken, Cabal, and Fallen all encroaching on our last safe city. But even here, things can be strange. We've got the Traveler above, and Guardians here below. Light-bearers, powerful warriors, capable of summoning mystical energy and coming back from the dead. All the while living in the tower and the city, mixing with mortals alike. Now, whether you can wield the light or not, you may have some questions about Guardians. Questions like, do Guardians need to eat? Do they sleep? Do they age? Welcome back to another Embrace Destiny report. Kaz PhD here, and today marks the beginning of a new series where we explore the world of Destiny and the Guardians therein. As always, I have some timestamps and notes in the description below in case you want to jump straight to the information. Today we're going to address that first question. Do Guardians need to eat? Now the question, do Guardians eat? That's easy. We've seen numerous examples of Lightbearers eating, most notably during the Dawning and Festival of the Lost. Guess many celebrations are not worth having unless there's food around. During the Dawning, we baked all kinds of food and drink from, let's just say, unsavory sources, and delivered them to our allies in the tower and all over the system. As the Guardian put it in the Celebrating Each Other entry from the Dawning Delights lore book, the Dawning is more that we're celebrating each other. We're all here together, eating sweets and being with each other. There are numerous references to Guardians eating, including some emotes, and we can't forget Cade's favorite ramen place. So Guardians can eat. They do eat. And in all respects, Guardians seem pretty normal here. Food is just as big of a part of the Guardians' everyday lives and events as any other culture. In fact, some of us take eating a little too far. I'm looking at you, Drifter. If you head down to the Tower Annex or jump into some Gambit, you'll hear the Drifter talking about eating all kinds of things. I won't say food exactly, but it's something. However, the question, do Guardians need to eat, is a lot more interesting. It's a fundamental question, one that is so obvious yet escapes our notion until we stop killing monsters long enough to begin questioning the existence of Guardians. Capable of healing and sprinting indefinitely, seemingly unaging, we have seen Guardians become stronger and more powerful, but too often in life, we overlook the mundane. Answering the question immediately prompts existential and philosophical questions regarding the nature and purpose of Guardians. If you assume they do need to eat, perhaps you're of the belief that Guardians are just normal people with extraordinary abilities. On the other hand, if you assume Guardians don't need to eat, perhaps you view Lightwielders as something other, something beyond typical cause and effect, beyond life, powered entirely by light, made of it, and beyond the trivial laws and necessities of typical organics. Now the question remained unanswered for a long time, especially because the difference between can and need to is so vast. In order to determine the necessity, we would have had to find an example of a Guardian starving to death or suffering ill effects due to a lack of food. Unfortunately for those involved, but fortunately for us today trying to answer this question, we have such an example. If you complete Gambit Prime bounties for the Drifter, he'll share some of his information in the lore book A Man with No Name. The book details his rising as a light wielder, his attempts to live among and help people, and details just why the Drifter is so untrusting of the light. In the page entry Dogma, we see this interaction between Drifter and his ghost. He had been reduced to crawling. His ghost cut serenely through the air above him. "What the hell is wrong with me?" he demanded of the ground. "You're dying from starvation," Ghost said flatly. "I don't believe you," he sneered, as he dragged himself over some rocks. "I could fix you," Ghost said. "Don't need you," he said. "I got this." Later, during the Allegiance quest, the Drifter tells us more about the troubles of the Dark Ages in the tapes he left behind. "Dark Age was different times. We had no city. Warlords and Iron Lords tore up the whole world trying to prove who was better, what was worth fighting for. I was busy trying not to starve. You ever get hungry till you keeled over? We did that a lot in the Dark Age. Our ghosts would bring us back, still hungry. Really pissed me off." So let's look closer at these two entries. In Dogma, Drifter is starving, and his ghost says that it can fix him. In the Allegiance Quest tapes, Drifter talks about Lightwielders being so hungry that they died, with their ghosts bringing them back, still hungry. This suggests a number of things. First, it does seem that Guardians need to eat. Without food or maybe intervention of their ghost, a Guardian will die of hunger. At least an organic Guardian. Will come back to Exos a little later. Without food, a Guardian will starve just like any member of the last city. Of course, Guardians can be brought back to life, and it seems in the Drifter's case, this happened many times. Starving, dying, reviving, over and over again. Guess I can somewhat forgive him for talking about eating Hive or drinking Vex milk. However, one thing picks at me. It's the line Ghost says in Dogma, "I could fix you." This could mean a number of things. It could mean that his ghost was capable of fixing his hunger, or removing it as a problem. Perhaps like a Guardian's health, Ghost could recharge a Guardian's appetite, remove that pain, so to speak. Another option is that the ghost could simply revive the Guardian, but as Drifter himself said, that doesn't fix anything. Hungry Guardians come back just as hungry. So what does this mean? Here's where interpretation comes in, where you may differ in your analysis, but I'll present my line of thinking. We have seen examples of Guardians learning new abilities. After the Traveler awoke, and after Cade's death, we learned new ways to channel the light. Perhaps the same is true of ghosts. Perhaps ghosts have innate abilities but are able to grow and learn over time. Perhaps ghosts, like Guardians, are not aware of their limits. In the Ghost Stories lore book entry, Difference of Opinion, the ghost Peach says, "The answer no one likes to give is that no one knows what the Traveler is, or anything about it. Not even us." It is possible that healing hunger may be a skill, one that ghosts can learn, or never learn, or maybe even choose not to do. Drifter's ghost said it could fix him from dying of starvation, but Drifter refused the help. When Drifter died, not of starvation but from poisoning, probably a topic for a future video, the ghost allowed it, thinking a complete restart would be less complicated. Drifter's ghost believed it could fix him, stop him from dying. Instead, its help was refused and Drifter died numerous times to hunger. Perhaps his ghost was capable, but because Drifter was so rude and refused help, his ghost simply didn't bother. Maybe it started as simple acquiescence, the ghost just doing what his Lightwielder told it to do, but over time that may have turned into spite. Just goes to show you what rudeness can do. Now how could his ghost have fixed him? There are several possibilities. His ghost could have made food for him, perhaps channeling the light into something edible. If it can make tables and chairs and emotes we can sit and interact with, and if Glimmer exists as programmable matter, if Ghost can transmat or create guns and ammo, perhaps it could make food. A second possibility is that Ghost could treat hunger like any sickness or injury, simply fixing the problem by scanning us with light. Finally, ghosts could perhaps just let us die and revive us with full stomachs? However, we don't know exactly for certain. These lore entries from Drifter are the closest we've come to answering these questions, so we'll move on and wrap up with our best interpretation in a moment. And before you strain your voice, I can hear you asking, what about Exos? The next time your adventures take you to Mars, you could wander over to the core terminus, where your ghost should be able to pull this information from a Clovis Bray terminal.
Early experiments in exoscience managed to encode the human consciousness into a form that could be processed digitally. At the time, we believed that was the big hurdle to overcome in the creation of the exo. Little did we know, the real challenge would be the phenomenon known as dissociative exomind rejection. Nascent proto-exos developed serious symptoms of cognitive disorder that eventually led to death. It turned out the human mind would not reconcile its presence in a new body. It took multiple iterations in design, but the Clovis Bray Corporation eventually developed several solutions. The first is to reboot the mind once it has been transferred, allowing it to awaken inside its new shell as though it were being reborn. This has side effects of memory loss and fragmentation, but it's highly effective in the prevention of DER. The reboot process can be repeated multiple times to further the odds of survival. It is not currently known how many times a human consciousness can be rebooted, but scientists estimate it to be around 20. The second preventative measure to DER is to program certain humanisms within exos. As machines, they have not the physical needs to eat or reproduce like real humans, but artificially injecting that drive has been clinically proven to reduce the odds of DER. Further experimentation is required to perfect the EXO project, but you can be assured that Clovis Bray is at the forefront in the field of exoscience.
So, according to this, exos, as machines, do not have the physical needs to eat or reproduce like, quote, real humans. However, apparently, without certain humanisms, the consciousness begins to reject the mechanical body, leading to death, known as dissociative exomind rejection, or DER. Now, as always, when investigating the strange universe we live in, we have to be careful about the source of our information, and we have to be careful about allowing one example to persuade us toward the entirety, or a lack of evidence leading us to the contrary. This information is from the Clovis Bray facility, recorded a long time ago, and was discussing proto-exo frames. Not only may a lot have changed since then, it's not a good idea to simply believe one source, especially a source as biased and mysterious as Clovis Bray. It is entirely possible that this information is correct, but it is also possible that this information is either deliberately or accidentally misleading. In any case, as far as we know, this information is correct. Exos are people, and they appear to act very similarly to organics. We do not have a case of them starving to death, but it appears there may be mental effects associated with not eating, which may lead to death, so the result is the same. So let's review and postulate my working theory before wrapping this up. Guardians do eat, and they can eat. We see examples of this all over the place, most notably during the Dawning and Festival of the Lost, when our light-wielding allies accept and eat the treats we made them. Do Guardians need to eat? Guardians get hungry. Drifter mentions it all the time, the lore from the Getaway Artist mentions Guardians starving. A Guardian who does not get food will die, either in the traditional manner of starving to death, as noted by Drifter in the Man with No Name lore book, or in the Exo case, presumably by having a mental break so severe it causes death, as detailed in the core terminus Clovis Bray terminal. Can ghosts alleviate hunger? This one is more open-ended. Drifter's ghosts seem to think so, but we have no evidence of it, nor do we know how it was planning on fixing Drifter's hunger. It is not difficult to imagine a scenario in which a ghost can either make food, either out of the light or changing material components around us, or somehow fix our hunger the same way it fixes injuries. For the time being, we'll just have to assume that any of that were possible. Most ghosts just don't know how. So there you have it. Hopefully this helps answer at least one question you may have had on humanity's protectors. I'm glad to have gotten that out of the way because one thing I'm really excited about is I'm starting a new video series talking about the food in Destiny. I thought now was a good time to dig deeper and discuss how similar and different our cuisine here is in our post-traveler times compared with, let's say, the pre-Golden Age. So keep your eyes out for that video series to go live. Thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to check out my socials down below. I stream most nights on Twitch. If you'd like to join me and discuss the lore together, have all means. Let me know if I missed anything or if you have further questions you'd be interested in exploring. In the meantime, be safe, be kind, and I'll see you all next time. Bye now.